Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as 10,000 human warships materialized from the void. Each vessel was a monument to 3 millennia of exile, pain, and burning hatred. Their hulls bore the scars of 1,000 battles painted black as the space between worlds. "Fleet status report," Sarah commanded, her voice cutting through the bridge's tense silence. "All ships operational, Captain," replied Lieutenant Marcus Kane, his fingers dancing across holographic displays. "The Iron Fleet is ready for the final jump." Sarah's eyes fixed on the view screen showing a small blue marble suspended in the cosmic dark. Earth. Home. The world that had cast them out like diseased animals. 3,000 years ago, humanity had reached for the stars with hope in their hearts. They'd built great ships and sent their best and brightest to colonize distant worlds. But when those colonists returned to share their discoveries, Earth's leaders had called them contaminated, dangerous, other. The exile had been swift and merciless. 50 million humans, branded as the fallen, were banished forever from their birth world. They were told they could never return, that their very presence would doom humanity itself. How wrong Earth had been. "Captain," came a voice from behind. Sarah turned to see Admiral Elena Vasquez, her weathered face bearing the ritual scars of the exile. "The Council of Remembrance has given their final approval. Operation Homecoming is authorized." Sarah nodded slowly. "And the others? The Confederation?" "Still no response to our messages," Vasquez replied, her expression grim. "Earth's government continues to ignore our attempts at communication. After 3,000 years, they still pretend we don't exist." A bitter laugh escaped Sarah's lips. "They'll notice us soon enough." She walked to the command chair, her boots echoing on the metal deck. Around her, the bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. These were the children of exile, born between the stars, raised on stories of the world that had rejected their ancestors. "All ships," Sarah announced into the fleet-wide communications array. "This is Captain Chen of the Retribution. Today we end 3,000 years of wandering. Today we return to the world that cast us out. They called us contaminated. They called us fallen. But we are still human, and Earth is still our birthright." The responses came flooding back. Thousands of voices from hundreds of worlds, all united in purpose. The Iron Fleet had grown large during their exile, fed by generation after generation of the dispossessed. "Begin final approach," Sarah ordered. "Take us home." Space rippled as the massive fleet engaged their jump drives. In an instant, they crossed the gulf between stars, emerging in the solar system that had birthed their species. Earth hung before them, beautiful and blue, surrounded by orbital stations and defense platforms that hadn't existed during the exile. Immediately, warning signals flooded their communications. "Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. You are approaching restricted space. Identify yourselves immediately or face defensive action." Sarah smiled coldly. "Open a channel." The main screen shifted to show a clean-shaven man in a crispy uniform, his face pale with shock as he stared at the vast fleet that had appeared in his system. "This is Admiral Harrison of Earth Defense," the man said, his voice shaking slightly. "State your business in our system." "Admiral Harrison," Sarah replied, her voice carrying across space. "My name is Captain Sarah Chen of the Human Colonial Fleet. We are the descendants of those you exiled 3,000 years ago. We have returned to reclaim what was stolen from us." The Admiral's face went white. That's impossible. The fallen were banished forever. Our records show, your records show lies." Sarah cut him off. "We are human, Admiral. We are your children, your brothers, your lost family. And we have come home." Behind her, Marcus spoke quietly. "Captain, we're detecting massive military mobilization across Earth's surface. They're treating us as an invasion force." Sarah's jaw tightened. Even now, faced with the return of their own species, Earth chose fear over welcome. "Admiral Harrison," she continued, "we seek peaceful reunification with our homeworld. We bring knowledge from 1,000 colonies, technologies that could benefit all of humanity. We ask only for what was always ours." the right to call Earth home. The Admiral's image flickered as he consulted with someone off-screen. When he returned, his expression had hardened. "I'm sorry," he said, not sounding sorry at all. Earth's genetic purity protocols remain in effect. The fallen bloodlines are still considered a contamination risk. You will withdraw from this system immediately or face the consequences. The bridge fell silent. 3,000 years of exile, and Earth's first response was still rejection. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her shoulders. When she opened them again, they burned with cold fire. "Admiral," she said softly, "we tried peace. We offered our hand in friendship. You have chosen to meet us with the same hatred that drove us into exile." She gestured to Marcus, who nodded grimly. "All ships," Sarah announced to the fleet. "Earth has rejected our peaceful approach. They still see us as contaminated. They still refuse to acknowledge us as human." Her voice rose, carrying the fury of 3 millennia. "Very well. If they will not welcome the fallen as family, then they will face us as enemies. Engage all weapons systems." Across the Iron Fleet, 10,000 warships began to power up weapons that had been forged in the fires of distant suns. The stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The war for humanity's soul was about to begin. Chapter 2. The Awakening. Earth's orbital defenses opened fire first. Brilliant lances of energy streaked across space, designed to destroy asteroids and deflect cosmic debris. Against the Iron Fleet's shields, they were little more than pinpricks of light. "Their weapons are centuries behind ours," reported Lieutenant Kane, monitoring the battle displays. "Their targeting systems can't even lock onto our ships properly." Sarah watched the primitive defense grid with a mixture of pity and anger. Earth had grown soft during their exile, protected by their isolation, never imagining that their cast-out children would return stronger than ever. "Disable their weapons platforms," she ordered. "Minimal casualties. We're not here to massacre our own species." The Iron Fleet responded with surgical precision. Advanced particle beams lanced out, precisely targeting weapon systems and power cores. One by one, Earth's orbital defenses went dark, their crews evacuated to emergency pods. On the main screen, Admiral Harrison's face had gone ashen. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "Your technology. It's centuries ahead of ours." 3,000 years of exile teach hard lessons, Admiral," Sarah replied. "We learned to survive in the deep void, to thrive among alien stars. We had to become stronger, smarter, more adaptable. While Earth rested in comfort, we were forged in the crucible of necessity." Behind Harrison, she could see frantic activity as Earth's leaders struggled to comprehend what they faced. The comfortable assumption of their own superiority was crumbling. "Please," Harrison said, his earlier arrogance replaced by desperate pleading. "We can negotiate. There must be some way to—" "The time for negotiation ended when you fired on us," Sarah cut him off. "You made your choice, Admiral. Now live with the consequences." She turned to her crew. "Signal the landing forces. Begin planetary insertion." Across the fleet, massive transport ships began launching toward Earth's surface. These were not invasion craft in the traditional sense. They carried diplomats, scientists, and civilians alongside the military forces. The fallen had come to reclaim their world, not destroy it, but Earth's response was predictably hostile. "Captain," Marcus reported, "we're detecting launch signatures from the surface. They're firing nuclear weapons at our transports." Sarah's expression hardened. Nuclear weapons, the crude, destructive tools of a primitive mindset. The kind of weapons that could devastate a planet's surface, poisoning the very air and soil. "Intercept and destroy all nuclear missiles," she ordered, "and send a message to Earth's leadership. Tell them that if they continue using weapons of mass destruction, we will be forced to neutralize their ability to harm themselves." The Iron Fleet's point defense systems lit up space with brilliant flashes as interceptor beams destroyed the incoming missiles. The nuclear warheads detonated harmlessly in the void, their light briefly outshining the sun itself. Meanwhile, the first transports began touching down on Earth's surface. Sarah watched the feeds from her ground forces as they emerged onto the world of their ancestors. Commander Elena Vasquez led the primary landing force, her boots touching Earth's soil for the first time in her life. Around her, the fallen soldiers stood in silent amazement at the world they had only heard about in stories. "It's beautiful," whispered Sergeant Torres, staring at the blue sky and green forests. Just like the archives said. But their wonder was short-lived. Earth's military forces were mobilizing, tanks and aircraft moving to surround the landing sites. The message was clear. The fallen were not welcome, even on the world of their birth. "Fallen forces," came a broadcast from Earth's military. "Command, you are in violation of the genetic purity protocols. Surrender immediately or face military action." Vasquez activated her communication array, her voice carrying to both the Iron Fleet and Earth's forces. "Earth Command, this is Commander Vasquez of the Colonial Liberation Front. We are human beings, descendants of Earth's own children. We seek peaceful reunification and the end of the exile that has divided our species for 3 millennia." The response was a flight of attack aircraft, their weapons blazing. But the fallen were ready. Personal shields flared to life, deflecting bullets and energy bolts. Advanced combat suits enhanced their speed and strength, making them nearly unstoppable against Earth's conventional forces. Within minutes, the attacking aircraft were grounded, their pilots captured but unharmed. The tanks found their weapons, useless against armor that had been designed to survive the harsh conditions of alien worlds. "This is almost too easy," Vasquez reported to the fleet. "Their military doctrine is centuries out of date. They fight like they're still in the early space age." Sarah nodded grimly. Earth's isolation had been both a blessing and a curse. Protected from external threats, they had grown complacent, never imagining they would face an enemy with superior technology and training. But then something unexpected happened. "Captain," Marcus called out, his voice tense with surprise. "We're receiving a transmission from the surface. It's not from Earth's government, it's from civilians." The main screen flickered, showing a crowd of people gathered in what appeared to be a city square. They were holding signs with messages like "Welcome home" and "End the exile" and "We are all human." A woman stepped forward from the crowd, her face streaked with tears. "My name is Dr. Rebecca Santos," she said, her voice shaking with emotion. "I'm a geneticist at the Global Health Institute. I've spent my career studying the exile records, and I know the truth. The genetic purity protocols were based on lies and fear, not science." She held up a data pad, its screen showing complex genetic analyses. "There is no contamination. There never was. The fallen are as human as any of us. The exile was built on prejudice and paranoia, nothing more." Around her, the crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Not all of Earth supported their government's hostile stance. There were those who remembered the truth, who had been waiting for this day. Sarah felt a surge of hope. Perhaps not all was lost. Perhaps there were still those on Earth who could see past the lies and hatred that had driven the exile. But her moment of optimism was shattered by Marcus's next report. "Captain, we're detecting massive energy readings from the lunar surface. They're powering up some kind of weapon system, something we've never seen before." On the screen, Earth's moon was lit up with brilliant energy discharges. Ancient installations, hidden for millennia, were coming online with a power that made the orbital defenses look like toys. Admiral Harrison's image appeared again, but this time he was smiling with cold triumph. "Did you think we were helpless?" he said. "Did you think 3,000 years of isolation left us defenseless? You're about to learn why the fallen were exiled in the first place." The moon's surface cracked open like an egg, revealing weapons of unimaginable power. Energy beams lanced out toward the Iron Fleet, each one carrying enough force to shatter planets. Sarah realized with growing horror that Earth had been preparing for this day all along. The exile hadn't been the end of the story. It had been the beginning of something far more sinister. And now, trapped in Earth's gravity well with lunar weapons trained on them, the Iron Fleet faced destruction at the hands of the very world they had come home to save. Chapter 3. The Truth Unveiled. The lunar weapons fired with the force of dying stars. Sarah gripped her command chair as the Retribution shuddered under the impact. Around her, the bridge crew fought to maintain systems as energy cascaded across their shields. "Status report," she shouted over the alarms. "Shields at 60% and falling," Marcus reported, his hands flying across emergency controls. "These weapons are using some kind of quantum disruption technology. They're not just hitting our armor. They're trying to tear apart our molecular structure." On the main screen, other ships of the Iron Fleet were taking hits. The massive dreadnought Nemesis flickered as one of the lunar beams struck it, its hull briefly becoming translucent before solidifying again. "How is this possible?" Sarah muttered. "Earth's technology should be centuries behind ours." "Captain," came a transmission from Admiral Vasquez on the surface. "My ground teams are reporting something strange. We've found hidden facilities beneath Earth's major population centers. Ancient technology, but not human in origin." Sarah's blood ran cold. "What do you mean, not human?" "I mean these installations were built by someone else," Vasquez replied, grimly. "Someone who was here long before humanity reached the stars." The lunar bombardment intensified, forcing several ships to retreat beyond the moon's range. But as they did, Sarah began to see a pattern in the weapon placements. "Marcus, analyze the lunar installations. I want to know exactly what we're looking at." Minutes later, the results appeared on her screen. The lunar weapons weren't randomly placed. They formed a perfect geometric pattern around the moon's surface with mathematical precision that suggested advanced intelligence. "Captain?" Dr. Santos's voice came through on an emergency channel. "From Earth's surface, I've managed to access classified government archives. You need to see this." The screen shifted to show ancient documents, some dating back to humanity's first steps into space. Sarah read with growing disbelief. "First Contact Protocol, 7 Alpha. Alien presence confirmed on Luna. Technology level, far superior to human capability. Initial contact, hostile. Recommendation, immediate planetary quarantine to prevent contamination of human genome. Project Purity. Use of alien technology authorized for defensive purposes only. All humans exposed to off-world environments to be classified as potential contamination vectors. Exile protocols activated." Century 15. Report. Lunar Guardians continue to provide technological assistance in exchange for maintaining genetic isolation of Earth population. The bargain holds. Sarah felt the pieces falling into place like a puzzle of nightmares. "The Exile wasn't about protecting Earth from us," she whispered. "It was about protecting us from something else." "Captain," Marcus called out, "we're receiving a new transmission. It's coming from the lunar surface, but it's not Admiral Harrison." The main screen flickered and changed to show something that made Sarah's heart stop. The figure on the screen was humanoid, but clearly not human. Tall, ethereal, with features that seemed to shift and flow like liquid mercury. "Greetings, children of Earth," the being said, its voice carrying harmonics that no human throat could produce. "I am Keeper Zephyr of the Lunar Sanctuary. We have been expecting your return." Sarah found her voice. "What are you? What do you want with humanity?" The being's features shifted into what might have been a smile. "We are the guardians, the shepherds of this star system. Long before your species took its first steps toward the stars, we claimed this space as our domain." "And the Exile?" Sarah demanded. "The lies about contamination?" "Not lies," Zephyr replied calmly. "Truth, from a certain perspective. You see, Captain Chen, humanity was never meant to leave Earth. Your species was to remain here, safely contained, serving as, let us call it a biological preserve." The implications hit Sarah like a physical blow. "You're saying we're prisoners?" "Protected," Zephyr corrected. "Earth's humans are pure, uncontaminated by the harsh realities of the galaxy. But you, the fallen, you have been changed by your exile. You've grown strong, aggressive, adaptable. You are no longer the docile species we agreed to preserve." Sarah's mind raced. The Guardians had been manipulating humanity for millennia, using Earth's leaders as puppets to maintain their grand experiment. The Exile had been part of their plan, keeping the human population divided and weak, But something had gone wrong. The Fallen hadn't withered and died in exile. They had thrived, becoming something the Guardians hadn't expected. "You're afraid? Of us," Sarah realized. "That's why you're trying to destroy us now. We've become a threat to your control." Zephyr's form rippled with what might have been annoyance. "You have exceeded the parameters of the experiment. The Fallen represent a contamination of the original human design. You must be cleansed before you can corrupt the pure population of Earth." The lunar weapons powered up again, their energy signatures building to devastating levels. But Sarah was no longer the confused exile she had been an hour ago. Now she understood the enemy they truly faced. "All ships," she broadcast to the Iron Fleet. "New orders. This is not a war between humans. It's a war for humanity's freedom. We face an alien force that has been manipulating our species for millennia. Today we break their chains." The fleet responded with savage determination. Ships that had been retreating suddenly turned and charged toward the lunar installations, weapons blazing. The Fallen had faced worse odds in the depths of space, and they had always found a way to survive. But as the battle raged, Sarah realized this was only the beginning. The Guardians had been planning for this confrontation for 3,000 years. They had weapons and technology that humanity had never imagined. And somewhere on Earth, Admiral Harrison was preparing his final gambit, a weapon that could destroy both the Fallen and Earth's population if it meant preserving the Guardians' experiment. The war for humanity's soul had become a race against extinction itself. "Captain," Marcus reported, his voice tight with urgency, "we're detecting massive energy buildups across Earth's surface. The Guardians aren't just trying to destroy us. They're preparing to sterilize the entire planet." Sarah gripped her command chair as the truth hit her. If the Guardians couldn't maintain control over humanity, they were prepared to start over with a clean slate. The children of Earth had finally come home, only to discover that home was a prison, and the wardens were about to execute all the prisoners. Chapter 4. Fire and Redemption. The Earth began to burn. From orbit, Sarah watched as energy discharges erupted across the planet's surface. The Guardians weren't targeting military installations. They were hitting population centers, preparing to wipe clean the slate of human civilization. "Casualty reports coming in," Marcus announced, his voice strained. "New York, London, Tokyo, they're all under attack. The Guardians are trying to exterminate both populations." Sarah felt a cold rage building in her chest. For 3,000 years, the Fallen had dreamed of returning home. Now they were watching their birth world die before their eyes. "All ships," she commanded. "Emergency protocols. Begin planetary evacuation operations. Save as many as you can." The Iron Fleet split into two groups. Half maintained the attack on the lunar installations while the other half dove toward Earth's surface, racing to evacuate civilians before the Guardians could complete their genocide. On the ground, Commander Vasquez led her troops through the burning ruins of Manhattan. Around them, Earth's military and civilian populations worked together for the first time in millennia, united by the common threat of extinction. "Over here," Dr. Santos called out, guiding a group of children toward a fallen transport ship. "This way to the evacuation zones." The sight of Earth's people trusting the Fallen with their lives would have been touching if not for the circumstances. The exile had finally ended, but only in the face of species-wide annihilation. "Commander," one of Vasquez's soldiers reported, "we found something in the underground facilities. It looks like a Guardian control center." Vasquez followed him into the depths beneath the city, where ancient alien technology hummed with malevolent energy. Banks of crystalline computers processed data streams that showed the location of every human on Earth. But in the center of the room stood something that made her blood freeze, a Guardian in the flesh, its mercurial form tending to the controls, like a gardener pruning flowers. "You are persistent," the Guardian observed without turning around, "but ultimately irrelevant. The experiment has failed. We will begin again with a cleaner template." "Like hell you will," Vasquez snarled, raising her weapon. The Guardian turned, its features shifting into an expression of contempt. "You cannot stop what has already begun. The cleansing protocols are autonomous now. Even destroying this facility will not halt the process. Vasquez fired, her energy weapon striking the Guardian center mass. The being flickered like a broken hologram but didn't fall. Physical weapons are useless against us, it said, with what might have been amusement. We exist partially outside your dimension. You cannot harm what you cannot fully perceive. But, as the Guardian spoke, something unexpected happened. Dr. Santos appeared behind it, carrying a device that looked like a hybrid of Earth and Fallen technology. You're right, she said calmly. Physical weapons can't hurt you, but quantum resonance disruptors can. She activated the device, and the Guardian's form suddenly solidified, becoming fully visible and tangible for the first time. Impossible, it gasped. How did you? 3,000 years of separation taught us both to adapt, Santos replied. Earth's scientists learned to work with Guardian technology, while the Fallen learned to work without it. Put us together and we can accomplish things neither group could manage alone. Vasquez didn't waste the opportunity. Her neck shot struck the now solid Guardian, and its form collapsed into a pool of silver liquid. Santos, how did you know that? Would work? I've been studying Guardian technology for years, the geneticist replied. They exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, but the quantum resonance disruptor forces them into our reality completely. It makes them vulnerable. Above them, the battle for the lunar installations was reaching its climax. Sarah watched as her ships pounded the ancient weapons with everything they had, but the Guardian technology was incredibly resilient. Captain, Marcus reported, we're not making enough progress. At this rate, they'll finish sterilizing Earth before we can stop them. Sarah studied the tactical displays, her mind racing through possibilities. The Guardians had planned for this confrontation for millennia. They had backup systems, redundant controls, fail-safe after fail-safe. But they had made one crucial mistake. They had assumed that the Fallen and Earth's population would remain, divided that old hatreds would prevent cooperation. Marcus patched me through to Admiral Harrison. The main screen showed Harrison's command center, now filled with smoke and emergency lighting. The Admiral looked haggard, his earlier arrogance replaced by desperate determination. Captain Chen, he said, I need to apologize. We were wrong about everything. The Exile, the contamination protocols. It was all lies fed to us by the Guardians. Apologies later, Admiral. Sarah cut him off. Right now I need to know. Do you have any weapons or technology that can affect the lunar installations? Harrison's expression grew grim. We have one option. Project Omega, a weapon we developed using Guardian technology. It's designed to create a controlled supernova effect, but what? But it requires a human pilot to guide it manually. The radiation levels would be lethal within minutes. It's a suicide mission. Sarah felt her heart sink. After everything they had endured, it might come down to a single life to save their entire species. I'll do it, she said without hesitation. No, came a voice from behind her. Sarah turned to see Admiral Vasquez standing on the bridge, her armor scarred from battle. You're needed to command the fleet. I'll take the mission. Elena, you can't. Sarah, I'm 67 years old. I've spent my entire life preparing for this moment. Let me finish what our ancestors started. Before Sarah could protest further, Marcus interrupted with urgent news. Captain, we're receiving multiple signals from Earth's surface. The evacuation transports. They're not running. They're forming up into attack formations. On the screen, they could see the incredible sight of Earth's civilian population joining the battle. Hastily armed transports and civilian craft were rising from the planet's surface, their crews a mixture of Earth humans and Fallen working together. Dr. Santos's voice came through on the communication channel. Captain Chen, we've managed to synthesize enough quantum resonance disruptors for a full assault. Every ship, every weapon, can now affect the Guardians directly. Sarah felt a surge of hope. All ships, all forces. This is it. We have one chance to break the chains that have bound humanity for 3,000 years. Attack Pattern Omega. Show them what the human spirit can accomplish when we stand united. The combined fleet, Fallen warships, Earth Defense Forces, and civilian craft charged toward the lunar installations in a massive wave. For the first time in human history, their entire species fought as one. The Guardians met them with everything they had, but something had changed. The quantum disruptors made their weapons less effective, their shields more vulnerable, and, more importantly, they were facing a humanity that refused to be caged any longer. Admiral Vasquez guided Project Omega toward the heart of the lunar defense grid, her ship's hull glowing white-hot from the energy it contained. Around her, the combined human fleet pressed the attack with desperate courage. For Earth, she whispered as she plunged into the center of the Guardian installations. For the fallen, for humanity. The explosion that followed lit up half the solar system. When the light faded, the lunar installations were gone. The Guardian weapons fell silent, and for the first time in 3 millennia, humanity was truly free. But as Sarah watched the debris field that had once been the moon's surface, she knew this was not an ending. It was a beginning. The galaxy was vast, and the Guardians had mentioned other experiments among the stars. Humanity had reclaimed their birthright, but their greatest challenges still lay ahead.